Okay, well, we'll jump right into it. From 1988, we were talking about Scream and Shout Factory. Well, they've opted to issue the 1988 film directed by Dennis Hopper with Sean Penn, Robert Duvall, colors. And this is an unrated cut. It has scenes not released in the theaters, as well as additional scenes from the international cut. So that's what makes it kind of unique. And colors was a blind spot for me. I had never seen it until I got the Blu-ray, and looks great. It is an excellent looking. Its director of photography, of course, was Haskell Wexler on that, whom you've interviewed, Dean. So,
of course.
Yeah, and of course that alone makes it worth viewing because the cinematography is great in that Haskell Wexler way. But it's not a perfect film, but it's interesting nonetheless, and it's a nice slice of late '80s, too, as well. So.
And you got to hit it. I mean, Penn and Duvall are good in it, and it's got an early Don Cheadle role in it, Damon Wayans. And also, I have to point out, I really love the title song. I don't know if it's played over the titles or over the closing credits, but
it is
the Ice-T song.
Opening credit.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's a very, very good early, movie rap song.
Yeah, when the hip hop was actually good. I thought when it actually had something to say. So
yes,
something of substance.
Well, and it was a movie that really I don't know that it did very well. Maybe it did. I remember seeing it on opening weekend. Mm-hmm. But it was a movie that was smack dab in the middle of gang violence in L.A. when it was reaching a real crescendo. And and Hopper really embedded the film crew in the center of that real dynamic. I mean, it all just wasn't kind of fictional on stage sets. I mean, they actually went on the streets of L.A. and interacted with a lot of people in these gangs. So it is. I mean, certainly a gang still exists, but it is an important kind of artifact of the time.
Yeah. It's like a historical document in some ways.
Yeah, it is. Very much so. And it again, we were talking about the transfers, superb transfer. They've done just a great job, and they're really doing some excellent work over at Shout Factory with their transfers. They've got a great thing going on. They're the ones who did the Carrie and the Thing, last fall, which were just amazing. And this one is right up there with it. So, and it's
by the way,
one of their.
By the way, guys, did you guys ever hear of where Dennis Hopper lives? Did you, Jerry? Did you ever see Dennis Hopper's house?
No. I never saw Dennis Hopper's house. Where did he live?
It was the most fascinating thing. He lived in a real crime-infested area, where people were getting machine gunned, like literally. Around the corner from his house. And he had all this priceless art because he was an art collector. So he had like Picassos and like really expensive artwork. He essentially lived in a cage. He drove his car into his home, and then like a steel door would come down. He lived in like a bunker where he felt completely safe. It was the most fascinating thing.
That is.
I mean, it's not underground or anything like a real bunker, is it?
I don't know how much of it was underground. No, I mean the house goes up above ground level, but I mean he might his garage itself might have been underground.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But he had all these priceless works of art, and he lived in an impenetrable house.
That's really interesting.
That's fascinating. Yeah, I did not know that. It's well, I can't remember how many movies he directed after Colors. I don't think there were too many that he actually directed after that one.
I mean,
he did the remake of The Last Detail, The Chasers. Wasn't that after?
Yeah, I think that was.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, certainly. Yeah, he did the Chasers in The Hot Spot.
The Hot
Spot.
Spot. That was the other
was
one I was trying to
The
think
Hot
of.
Spot I actually thought was very well done at the time. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, where
those were
he and Don Johnson hated each other on that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Anyway.
You know, it was like the Battle of the Big Dicks. But and then he did a movie called Chasers, which I don't. You know, I mean, Chasers. I don't, like you mentioned. I don't really remember that. But
no, it was a take on The Last Detail. It was a variation on The Last Detail. It came and went very quickly. I mean,
but it's a female.
And then we have. Oh, I remember Chasers. I remember Chasers because it had Eric Eleniak, the Playboy.
Right.
Yes. It had those big fake boobs in it. That's the only thing I remember about that movie. And then Richard Linklater has made his sequel to The Last Detail with Bryan Cranston playing the Nicholson part, and that comes out this year.
Yeah. It's going to be something else. So, and strangely enough, Steve Carell in the Randy Quaid part.
I saw a behind the scenes photo of it, and I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
It's good. Interesting. Okay, Adam. Sorry.
Well, the 1959 film Compulsion has been issued. Orson Welles, of course, Diane Varsi, Dean Stockwell, Bradford Dillman, and you know, it was before the O.J. Simpson case, called the Crime of the Century, the 1924 slaying of by Nathan Leopold and Richard Webb. And anyway, this is the dramatization of it. It's considered to be it's well regarded. You know, Kino Lorber has issued that, and they've given it a new transfer. And I didn't get a chance to look at that, but I hear if you're a fan of the movie, it's worth picking up. Don't think there's a lot of extras on that one, but anyway, it's out there. And Criterion started off, and we're going back to March 7th, by the way. For is where we're starting here. 45 years, the Oscar nominee from 2015.
Golly.
Yeah. So they're.
What a great movie that is! I mean, wow. What a great movie. I just rewatched it about 2 weeks ago, and it still just floors me. I mean, easily, you know, like right up there with Inside Out in 2015's like pantheon of great movies. And just devastating. And Tom Courtenay doesn't get enough credit for the movie either. I think he's right there with her in terms of quality of performance.
Yeah, it's I know Paramount only issued it. I think they only put it out on DVD. They did not opt to issue it on Blu-ray initially, and I guess that's why they were holding out for the Criterion. So anyway, so we'll go from 45 years to the buzzing penis film "What Planet Are You From?" starring Gary Shandling.
Mike Nichols' weirdest movie.
Right. Yeah. You know, something when...
I mean, you're kind of a fan of that, aren't you, Jamie?
No. I remember watching that. I remember watching that opening weekend, and I did not laugh once. I like Gary Shandling.
Yeah.
I do. I remember seeing the description, just reading Roger Ebert's review of it, and him mentioning that his member buzzes when he's aroused, and I thought, I got to see this. This sounds like my kind of thing.
It's a series of missed opportunities. I mean, it's got Linda Ferrantino, and it's just like, Linda Ferrantino, you got Gary Shandling, you got Ben Kingsley, and it's just like, how can you fuck this up? And they do it. They fuck it up. I'm sorry.
They do. And Mike Nichols directing,
I don't know why that happens. I mean, it's one of those things where you know it doesn't work, but if you had to diagnose why it doesn't work, I'm sure it has something to do with the process that we're not privy to.
Yep. Well, Mill Creek has issued that title. If anybody is interested, or is a Mike Nichols completist or a Gary Shandling completist, it's out there. But just wanted to mention that. Also, we were talking about Warner's archive stuff. They issued 2 titles on that day, March 7th. One is, I mentioned earlier, Finian's Rainbow, with Fred Astaire, Petula Clark, Tommy Steele, and Francis Ford Coppola's second feature film for, it was a second film for Warner Brothers, I know for a fact, because he had just come off of You're a Big Boy Now, and I'd never seen this until I got the copy of it and watched it, and it has some good moments in it. It's amazing watching Fred Astaire at age 70 when he shot this film. He's so unbelievably limber, and just those dance sequences are pretty amazing when you see a 70-year-old man moving like he does in this movie. But it's I think it was probably dated when the movie came out, and it hasn't aged very well.
It's one of the movies that helped kill the musical as a viable commodity. I have never seen it, but just recently I had to review for a Zeke film. I had to review The Bandwagon, which is a very good, though for me kind of problematic Fred Astaire movie from the 50s. And on it, they had every preview. They had 20 Fred Astaire previews. So I looked at the Finian's Rainbow thing. I was like, and this is a blind spot for me in terms of Coppola and everything, probably for everybody. And I was looking at it, and I was like, man, could they have gotten the worse leads than Petula Clark, who was a major music star, but other than I guess she was in the following year she was in Goodbye Mr. Chips with Peter O'Toole, but then Tommy Steele, who is a major music star, maybe in Britain, I guess. I don't really know if he had any kind of following here in America, but man, he's got, talk about face for radio. Oh my God, he's the romantic lead. Oh my God, please. It's got a score by.
Hey Adam, let me ask you this. Adam. Is Finian's Rainbow to Fred Astaire what Xanadu is to Gene Kelly?
That's a good question.
It's close. It's not quite on that bottom feeder level, but it's pretty close. It's, like I said, there are some good things. Coppola's mastery of the camera, of course, and there are some nice directorial flourishes from time to time when he's not sticking to the play, when he's trying to experiment and do some interesting things. And I love the opening credit sequence. I'll be honest with you, I thought it was quite moving as they are. It's Fred Astaire and Petula Clark traveling the country trying to figure out where they're going to settle, and they're going from place to place, and it's all this nice outdoor scenic stuff that's underscored by a look to the rainbow, and I found that to be touching and moving. But then the movie starts, and then
is it like the most like cornily Irish, like, because it's like it takes place in Ireland, right? So there's like, is he supposed to be playing like is Astaire supposed to be playing like a like some kind of leprechaun or something, or is that?
Well, it actually takes place in America, and
it does?
I can't remember the town, but he's stolen a leprechaun's gold, is what it amounts to.
Oh, okay.
And so he gets this land, and he gets a parcel of land and buries the gold, and that's when his daughter falls in love with one of the people in the town, and then Keenan Wynn owns all of the land except for the one little parcel that he was given, and he's like the evil businessman that finds out there's gold buried on the land, and he's very condescending towards the black people who live in the town, and so the leprechaun turns him into a black man at one point.
I was wondering where Al. Sorry.
What's that?
Holy shit! So that businessman is like the equivalent of Robert Evans for Coppola.
Yeah.
Is it?
I was, Al Freeman Jr. is in it, who played Elijah. Right. He was in Malcolm X, and also, well, he's most famous for Malcolm X. But so is that where he comes in, or where's he?
Yeah. He's hired to as a character. He needs a job, and so he takes a job as the caretaker for Keenan Wynn, who's the big rich senator who owns all the land. And like I said, Keenan Wynn gets in contact with the leprechaun who turns him black, and that's supposed to be it's ham-fisted comedy, basically.
Fisted being the appropriate word.
yeah, right. So, but the movie it's filmed in this beautiful widescreen. It's Philip Lathrop, who was a great cinematographer on a lot of things over the years, and it's well photographed, but it's a misfire for sure, and it's way too long. It's 2 hours 25 minutes. It's yeah. But I will say this as bonus on the disc, if you're really interested. Well, it has a Francis Ford Coppola introduction before the film, which is
cool.
Kind of gives you an overview of where he was at that point in his life and why he chose to do it, and working with Fred Astaire. And then there is a commentary throughout the film, and there's a featurette. You guys remember how they used to do these promotional featurettes in the 60s and 70s? Well, there's one on the world premiere of Finian's Rainbow, where they actually interview all the stars going in to see the film for the first time, and Coppola is included. He was like 28 at the time, I think, and so it's interesting to see all that. So, the bonus materials almost make it worth it, and the transfer is gorgeous. I will give them that. So, anyway, mixed bag as far as the film goes, but if you're looking to catch up on the earlier pre-Godfather work of Coppola, there you go. So
okay.
Yeah, but another Warner Archive title that I do recommend getting, regardless, is, and I think we're all fans on this one. I believe we're on the same page, is Blake Edwards' S.O.B.
Probably, I'll say, and I said it to you when you posted it, I think it's the best movie ever made about Hollywood.
Yes.
I will take it over the player any day.
It's one of them. It's one of them, and it looks great. Again, another 4K.
Movie.
Yeah, it is. I love the gag about the guy who dies of a heart attack in the opening of the film, and everybody's so self-absorbed that they just keep tripping over the guy's corpse throughout the first hour of the film.
And he's got a dog,
Right.
Oh, that's so sad.
But you know what? No one ever wants to. It's one of Bill Holden's truly great later roles.
Oh yeah.
He is superb. I mean,
he
you want to talk about a commanding performance. I mean, he's just superb in this. I mean, I know people will say, "Oh, well, what about the Earthling?" No, I'm joking about that. But S.O.B. really. Let's look at Bill Holden's later career. I mean, we got Damien Omen 2, we got the Earthling, we got that one with Paul Newman where they're on the island about the volcano or whatever, which has everyone and their brother who's just trying to get actors' equity checks.
When time ran out.
Yes, when time ran out.
Oh yeah.
I mean, but here you actually have from Blake Edwards a very smart, very cynical, incredibly cynical film about Hollywood that no one even talked about back then, but no one talks about right now.
Yeah.
And it's an awesome, funny film. I mean,
if you hear let me just list off the people. I'm just going through IMDb, not from my memory, but definitely. I mean, Marissa Berenson, Larry Hagman, Robert Loggia, Richard Mulligan, who's fantastic in the movie.
Oh God,
yes, he is.
Good.
He's so good. He's the director that's going nuts. That kind of spurs all the action. Robert Preston, who is also fantastic in the movie.
Oh God,
yes.
The personal doctor. Loretta Swit, who makes you want to tear your hair out. Robert Vaughn, Robert Weber, Shelley Winters. Stuart Margolin, Rosanna Arquette, early Rosanna Arquette role, Larry Storch. It's ridiculous. It is such a joy, and And what's great about it too is that it's such a honest commentary by Blake Edwards on his own. His own, because a lot of this is based on his difficulties making, what was it, Darling Lily?
Darling Lily, yes.
I think
which was another one of those musicals that killed musicals, and and of course controversially it had Julie Andrews, who's of course the lead, giving her one and only nude shot.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
We just sold a ton of Blu-rays just there. Also, it's interesting. I want to let you guys know that
because he comes out with another movie. No, not Switch. Sorry, guys, I'm not talking about Switch. But he made a movie with Jack Lemmon years later called That's Life, which I thought was very good and very underappreciated.
True.
He did manage to make some really, smart. No, Son of the Pink Panther does not count. But he did make some really good movies in the later years of his life, or later years of his career, at least.
Yeah.
I was watching Turner Classic Movies the other day, last weekend, when they were doing all Robert Osborne-centric stuff. And it was a show where Alec Baldwin was interviewing Robert Osborne, and they were both going back and forth on their favorite whatever, and the subject was their favorite leading man, and they both said William Holden. That was their favorite.
I can't argue with that. I mean,
wow.
Holden must have taken incredible joy at being in this movie, too, because he had been quite wronged by Hollywood many times, and so he must have really loved doing it. He probably gave it his all. So,
and I'm watching it also, and I had forgotten how stunningly beautiful Marissa Berenson was while I was watching this, and I had totally forgotten that, and I thought, wow, she's something else, and still is. She's still attractive for an older lady, but in this movie especially, it's like, wow, something else. So, but yeah, SOB is great. It still holds up, and again, another nice transfer from Warner Archive, and I'm just glad that's not a title that you would expect them to have a long list of people asking for it, but I'm glad they chose to put it out, and it's a good thing.
And there's lots of rabid Julie Andrews fans. So I mean.
Oh yeah, that's true. So
yes.
Anyway,
unlike Finian's Rainbow, it's not a title you think a lot of people are clamoring for.
True. Well, the 1991 horror film Popcorn, directed by Alan Ormsby. And I saw that one in the theater and was not impressed when it came out, and I have not revisited it since then. But that's Alan Ormsby, the guy who was involved with some of those early Bob Clark horror films. He directed this one, and so anyway, for any horror completists, that one is also available, and that one came out on the 7th. And we'll move on to March 14th now. And the 1984, you guys are talking of Stephen King earlier. How about Firestarter?
I can't wait for this to come, when they reboot this one. Oh, God.
Which they probably will.
They should.
They should redo it, because it's not a good movie.
Yeah, agreed.
It's not a good movie. It's a bloody... all right, never mind. Bloody wretched, but I mean...
This was
it's just so, the most awkward part of it is George C. Scott playing the Indian assassin.
Yeah.
And the fact that they kind of intimate that he's a pedophile, and yet they can't be overt with that. They don't commit one way or another. It's very kind of odd.
Yeah, and what's up with that eye patch that it appears and then reappears and it's gone, it's there, but there's no explanation as to why? I always thought that was strange. And
I mean, it's been a really long time since I've seen it, so I totally forgot about that. I haven't seen it since 1984.
Yeah.
Yeah, God, I forgot about that. That's nuts. My prime memory of it is just some of the definitely George C. Scott is like that's the worst, but some of those special effects, some of the fiery special effects are terrible. The practical effects,
It's not the movie that Mark L. Lester will be remembered for. Let's just put it that way.
And yet he's out front. I'm sure he's on the Blu-ray. In the extras.
Yeah.
I mean, he talks about it a lot. He talks about that in Commando. He's active on Facebook too, but he's doing all these anniversary observances for both of those movies.
Yeah. He was involved with Shout Factory a couple of years ago when they did Class of 1984, which I am a fan of that. Now I'm gonna admit I'll cop to that one. And
that's probably the movie he will be remembered for.
Right. He should be, because that's a very enjoyable movie. I mean, for what it is, it's extremely.
It is,
and of course, it's a little bit similar to Massacre at Central High in some ways. Different, of course, but has some
so
similar.
So is Heathers, for that matter. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
But it's a very, very enjoyable movie, I think. But yeah. So
Firestarter also has the Tangerine Dream score. That
I mean
that's very popular. That's very popular as well.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's the thing about Firestarter was that was the first production that Dino De Laurentiis filmed in Wilmington, North Carolina, in my home state, and he was so taken by it that he set up the studios down there, which are still used to this day. He sold them off after he had a couple of megaton bombs with Taipan and $1 Million Mystery and King Kong Lives killed his business, but he sold it off and it did pretty well and still does to a certain degree, I think so.
Yeah, he looked around North Carolina and thought, this is where we must shoot Dune. Just reminded him.
True, that was another one, and that and Maximum Overdrive, those are all.
They all, Maximum Overdrive. That's the movie that I got to interview Stephen King in connection with.
Yeah, that's the one where the guy got his, I think a cinematographer, an assistant DP got his eye put out and sued the production. So, he lost an eye in it because he was shooting too close to a lawnmower blade.
The audiences that went to see Maximum Overdrive were begging to have their eyes taken out too. I mean, that's kind of ironic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
we'll
move on to the next title. Yeah, the 1976 film Kanoa: A Shameful Memory has been issued by Criterion. This is one that I'm not really all that familiar with, but it's based on a real life incident that supposedly occurred just 8 years before its release about a group of Urban University employees on a hiking trip who were viciously attacked by residents of the village of San Miguel de Canoa. So they had been manipulated by a corrupt priest into believing the travelers were communist revolutionaries. So an interesting synopsis for a premise for a film. So I'm curious about that one. But
is this a doc or is this a?
No, it's a dramatization of this event. Kanoa: A Shameful Memory, but from '76.
Wow.
But that's a Criterion release. And anyway, here's two for you. I can't wait to hear what you guys think about these. How about The Bitch and The Stud?
I was offered the opportunity to review these two movies for Zeke Film because we that's one of the Kino Lorber is one of the outfits that cooperates with us, and we have a coterie of writers, and so all the DV Kino Lorber offerings are put up at the beginning of the month for offerings. Nobody wanted to review either the bitch or the stud. Nobody even wanted to do it, have it for free, you know. So, and I've never seen the movies, but it's one of those movies, the two movies that I just absolutely know.
Now, is Joan Collins in both?
Yeah, I think she is.
Yeah, she is. Interestingly enough, this is kind of interesting. Of course, there are new transfers here, but Nick Redman, who owns Twilight, he's the guy who runs Twilight Time. He also, if you recall, was the guy who did I think he won the Oscar for the documentary on the Wild Bunch. A history montage.
Well, he didn't win, but they were nominated.
Oh, he's nominated. That's right. Yeah. That's right.
And the Wild Bunch, an album and montage, which they should have won.
Yeah,
he should have won.
Great. But yeah, he's very been instrumental in. He used to be involved with the Film Score Monthly, where they would put out these film scores, and he supervised a lot of those releases. And then he opened his own company, which is started his own company, Twilight Time, and so he runs that. And so interestingly enough, he provides the commentaries for both of these, which is he and David Del Valle. And they usually only do commentaries for a Twilight Time product, so they've farmed.
Boy, I have to call him out as being somebody who's a real hero. I didn't know that background with him doing the film score thing, but
that's him, same guy.
That coupled with his filmmaking and then Twilight Time, which is for my money the probably the best. The best, outfit out there,
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're the most tasteful outfit out there. They're really, really trying to get the good stuff to us, and you got to give them credit for that. And I got to say, I ordered the only thing that I've ever ordered from that film score thing was my Wild Bunch soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
Which is astounding. So, and I did get taking a Pelham 123 from them too, the David Shire.
Oh yeah, that's they were great. He also was involved with Varese Sarabond when they had their releases that they would put out in stores. He did a lot of those too, I think. So
really, God, because that was another incredible outfit too. Whoa.
Yeah, he's very, very. He's one of those unsung heroes of film. So when he started Twilight Time, I knew it was going to be something special. When I heard that he was starting a Blu-ray outfit, I said, "Yeah, this is going to be good." And it has proven to be. That's why, if you notice on all the Twilight Time releases, he always isolates every film score on every release. So you get the film score in addition to...
You get the soundtrack.
Right. So it's
terrific.
Like getting two things for the price of one, because you get the film with a brand new transfer, and then you get his... the isolation of the actual score, and you know that nothing is being left out, unlike some of these releases that we've bought, these soundtracks, where they opt to leave the stuff out. Everything's there intact. So nice. So that's why. That's a little background on who he is, but anyway, he contributed commentary for the bitch and the stud, and another Kino release would be The Skull. With this is Peter Cushing, and one I've heard of for years and years, but I've never actually seen it. Christopher Lee also, yeah. So and Kino was busy. They had The Lovers on the Bridge was another one of their releases that same week, that same day, which is a 1990 film that I was quite unfamiliar with, to be honest.
I like it. It's the Juliette Binoche thing, right?
That's I knew she was in it, but I wasn't really familiar with it until they opted to release it. So
it's good. Juliette Binoche and Daniel Auteuil, I think, or Dennis Levant. Sorry,
that's
Dennis
right.
Levant.
That's right.
It's a Leo Carax movie. So Dennis Levant, who kind of made more of a splash with Holy Motors a few years ago, where he played numerous roles in that. It's good. It's weird, but it is emotional. So, And you can't discount anything with 90s era Juliette Binoche, who's like about as delectable as a little bonbon there. So sweet.
Yeah. Well,
Adam, I have a question for you.
Sure. Yeah.
Because we were talking about Warner Brothers earlier. I have a request. You have pull with these people. I want a definitive Blu-ray of Cobra. I mean, can we get that? I know it's out there, but I don't want like a bare bones. I want something with like all the works thrown in.
That's an idea.
And it's not like there's not a market for that either. I mean, come on.
It's popular. It's popular.
Yeah.
I'm sure there is. I'm sure it might be something worth. Might have to shoot them an email and say, "Have you ever thought about this?" Not that I've got all the pull in the world, but yeah.
I've never been passionate enough to start a letter writing campaign throughout the 10-year history of the show, but I just might do it for Cobra, like a petition.
Well, you want the soundtrack to be isolated? You want it to have an isolated soundtrack?
I want John Cafferty and the Beaver Brown Band commentary over the closing credits.
Oh, that is nuts.
See to it, Adam. That's all I'm saying.
Whoa.
See to it.
Hit up those folks at Warner's. I'll have to put that on my to-do list. I'll tell you one thing about Warner talking about them. The one film that they will not release stateside is The Devils. Of course, Ken Russell's The Devils, even though the restoration work has been done, and it's been sitting there for at least a decade because they were going to issue it, and then it's the content. They feel like it's just going to offend so many people. The full uncut version, which, like I said, they brought in the surviving actors, and they even had some people redub the lines to make them, more audible. And BFI put out a UK version of The Devils, as close to an uncut version as you're probably going to get. And but they were told they could not release it on Blu-ray, only DVD by Warner Brothers. So it's a weird situation. But the point I'm getting at is that Shudder is now streaming it.
That's what I was going to bring up.
Yeah,
yeah. That was a big sort of controversial thing that happened this past week.
Yeah.
Was that showed up on Shudder.
It did, yeah.
But I understood that there were some people who say, "Oh, it's fake" or whatever. Is it real? That they?
It's real, but it's still missing the crucial final scene with with Vanessa Redgrave, shall I say, pleasuring herself to the shin bone of Oliver Reed.
Okay.
Let's just put it that way. And that's very very important to the rest of the film. It kind of gives you the punchline, so to speak, to what's gone before. And there's also, the sequence, they call it the Rape of Christ sequence, that's where the nuns just go crazy, and they're because they're so sexually frustrated, and then they, Oliver Reed's character's kind of tempting them, and then they just go crazy. And there's a whole sequence where they are in the church, just kind of like mass psychosis or whatever. And so anyway, that scene was cut. I have a version that has both of them intact, but both of those scenes were trimmed out of the Shudder version that's running, I think. But
okay.
Haven't we moved past the point of time where this shit is considered too dangerous to release? I mean, in reality, don't you think if they actually released it, then there would be like no reaction whatsoever, and they'd be like, "Well, what were we so concerned about?"
Because only the real rabid movie fans are going to watch it, and they understand. They're going to understand. I mean, but we're in a world where we have three Human Centipede movies. So I mean, I don't get it.
That is a good point. So I mean, it's really probably one of the best points I've ever heard.
It's true, and The Devils is based on a true story. I mean, it is a true documented case. It's not something that Ken Russell was making up. It really happened. So, anyway, but I digress. But anyway, we'll move along to another Kino release, The Man Who Could Cheat Death with Christopher Lee. Another one.
I like that they're doing all these, Christopher Lee. Are all these Hammer movies?
Couple of
The Skull
I believe The Skull is, and I believe The Man Who Could Cheat Death also. I believe.
If it's a Hammer movie, there's a market for it. It needs to be out there. So. And
there's a market for the Drive-In Massacre, of course, as well. That's why Severin Films has released it from 1976.
I tried to watch it because I tried to watch once the Drive-In Massacre because I'll watch anything that has Drive-In in the title, including the movie Drive-In.
Drive-In, that's
right. But and I couldn't watch it because it just looks so amateurish and so it looks like it's like shot on 8mm or something. And then I have, believe it or not, I have a movie poster for it. I have a one sheet for it, and it's probably one of the worst one sheets ever. I mean, just Google it and look at it. It's just the worst. But did you watch it?
No, I didn't get a copy of that one. That's one I did not.
Okay.
But its reputation precedes it, though. Let's just put it that way. So, but. Speaking of Twilight Time, we'll go ahead and go through their product for the month of March, and they issued Baby Boom with, Diane Keaton. Harold Ramis as her boyfriend in the film. Don't forget that. So,
that's a pretty insufferable movie.
Well,
it was a big rebound for Diane Keaton, though.
It was.
It was a popular movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I didn't realize that.
Oh yeah, that was
Yeah, she had a couple of lean years before that, I believe.
Charles Shire and Nancy Myers.
Right. Yeah, one of their. Well, you either warm up to them and the kind of films they do, or you don't. So that's about the best advice I can give you.
That's it.
And you know what it is.
It was like a version of Working Girl without all that sex appeal and humor. So it was.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Those two worthless qualities.
Yeah. So that's true. Well, How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying with Robert Morse and featuring choreography by Bob Fosse. So, that's and this actually has a featurette with Michelle Lee reflecting on the film, and Robert Morse also in another featurette. So, and there's a isolated music track, of course. So, if you're a fan of How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, well, there you go. And then there's
a supporting role for. I have to mention it has a supporting role for Rudy Valley, who's
true. Yeah.
Who was pretty famous in the 20s. maybe not so now, but I mean, Robert Morris doing reprising his stage role, which I think he probably won a Tony for. I mean, I think I have a one sheet for this too, by the way. But I've never watched it, but if I were to watch it, it would only be because of my interest for Bob Fosse.
Yeah.
By the way, Adam, in that Cobra letter that you write, also.
Oh my God!
We're still on this.
Also, add in Star 80 because you've got. Obviously, Cabaret has been done to the hilt. Lenny was done by Twilight Time.
Right.
All that jazz, Criterion.
Yeah.
You need a definitive Star 80 out there. I don't know why it hasn't happened yet.
Actually, I did mention that. We got into a discussion the other day. Somebody was commenting on something I'd posted, and I think it was the Finian's Rainbow maybe or something, and I said, yeah, let's hope that. And I tagged them. Warner Archive will get busy on Star 80 or something like that. So I don't know that it made any difference, but it definitely needs to be rectified. I agree.
Is Star 80 kind of in that pantheon of like movies that they might be afraid to like put out because people might, they're afraid people might lose their shit over it or something? Am I wrong there? They're afraid of it.
See, I think people of a certain generation love that movie.
I think so too. Yeah.
And so I think if you release it, you'll probably sell more than your average kind of disposable. And I know that they made it available. I think they did anyway. At one time, as one of those kind of disposable made-to-order things.
Yeah,
but
they
it was
did,
bare bones with just the trailer on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they've issued it twice. They did do a proper release of it in the early days of the DVD format. Unfortunately, and that's the one I have, it is only full screen, which sucks, of course. And of course, it's photographed wonderfully by Sven Nykvist, and so you're missing all the great compositions that he worked so hard to achieve for that movie. But then they did do the one you're talking about, the Warner Archive DVD to order, which did put it out in widescreen, but it's just, the transfer's not good. It's just not so it definitely needs to be.
Yeah, because I remember somehow I got a chance to see that, and I thought, man, it looks dirty and spotty.
Yeah, it does. It's not good. They need to do that, and the Clean and Sober is another one that needs a good widescreen transfer.
Oh God!
Warner Archive.
Yes, Adam, you're speaking my language, man. You got this.
I knew this was good.
This letter is getting longer and longer.
Oh God! Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I always think of Clean and Sober because they put it out at about the same time, and it was that same thing. And I was screaming when I saw it. I remember buying them, but it's like, why did you do this? And so why did you not put these out in widescreen? So
I thought two great movies. Oh, they're such great movies.
Yeah,
and especially with Michael Keaton's career, another career that's rebounded as it has in recent years. A defining dramatic work for Michael Keaton.
Yeah,
they need to spend some time on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Agreed. But we'll go finish up with these Twilight Times real quick. Our Man in Havana, produced and directed by Carol Reed and screenplay by Graham Greene, and it was shot in Havana just 2 months after the fall of the Batista regime, with the full permission of Fidel Castro, which makes it kind of interesting. And it has Alec Guinness and Burl Ives and Maureen O'Hara, so Ernie Kovacs too, in a big screen.
Wow.
So. Anyway, there's another one, and of course it has the isolated track, the music track, and the trailer. And Peyton Place is another Twilight Time release. That's another one that they opted to put out, and they did a great restoration on that, by the way. It looks great. It's a very corny film, but still, it's fun in a soap opera type way. And
I still think that Peyton Place is, a movie that sort of has relevance. I mean, particularly the actors in it are very good. Hope Lang. In that year, by the way, it had 3 Best Supporting Actress nominees, which how rare is that to have?
Yeah,
three
true.
from the same movie, but. I think Hope Lang, Diane Barcy, and Terry Moore. But I would say that Hope Lang was also in another small town movie called Blue Velvet.
Yep.
And I think that Blue Velvet is kind of David Lynch's response to something like Peyton Place. or even a Summer Place, too.
Great point.
So it might be interesting. It's also written by the same guy that wrote Rear Window, so John Michael Hayes. So and it's beautiful to look at. So I would not discount that movie.
Yeah, it's well, if you're a fan of it, I mean, they've done a great job with some of the extras because there's a commentary with filmmaker historian Willard Carroll. It's a commentary with Terry Moore and Russ Tamblyn, and there's a on location where they go back to the locations with the Willard Carroll audio commentary, and then there's the Fox Movie Tone newsreels from the time, which is interesting, and then you have the original trailers. So. You know, some good extras there. And
I mean, when you look at, just to go back to my comparison with Blue Velvet, when you go to IMDb, which I'm going to, the description for Peyton Place is a peaceful New England town hides secrets and scandals. Well, that just says it all right there, you know?
Yeah.
That says it all, so.
It's true. It's true. But, there's a couple of more Warner Archive titles I want to mention right quick. Valley of Guanji with that's Harryhausen from 1969.
That's fantastic.
I mean, that's one of James Franciscus. He doesn't get enough credit for that movie, but that's one of James Franciscus. You think I'm joking?
No, I agree.
Movie.
I agree with you.
It's a really good movie.
Yeah, it is. It is a really good movie. I mean, I personally believe that I hold that as one of my favorite Ray Harryhausen movies. Because of the fact, well, I mean, you know, cowboys and dinosaurs. I mean, that says it all.
I mean, it's really quite entertaining. It still holds up, I think, actually rather well.
It does, and you know what? It evokes. It's one of the few movies of that type that does that sort of King Kong thing of evoking sort of sympathy for the monster, you know?
Yeah, true.
There's a certain quality to that's you know, and I just love seeing, you know, seeing Harryhausen's work in that particular world, you know, rather than, you know, the sort of you know, Grecian or European or whatever you want to say world of, you know, the other Harryhausen movies.
Let me say this though, going to James Franciscus though. You know, this film and Beneath the Planet of the Apes do not get mentioned in his official obituary. Like that ran on the wires back when he died. Only the show about the blind lawyer. That's it. We don't get these. We get the show about the blind lawyers. What do you think? I mean, who gives a shit about that show? We bring in the Valley of the Jumanji and Beneath the Planet of the Apes. Goddamn, who cares about that show?
That's true. That's true.
I mean, I'm actually being rather serious because, I mean, what else do we have? We have Grey Lady Down. I realize that with it, where everybody's in that movie. But I mean, come on, throw the guy some bones. I mean.
And let me just say this about Guanji. You know, it has a fantastic score by a very neglected composer, Jerome Moross, whose work is unfortunately, you know, kind of forgotten these days. I mean, he really kind of deserves kind of a place in the pantheon along with, you know, John Williams and Jerry Goldsmith. I mean, some of his stuff, particularly for this and for a movie called The Big Country.
Yes, that's a great score.
The William Wyler movie.
I've got that soundtrack.
Yeah, but the Guanji soundtrack too, which is one of his last. I think it's his last soundtrack for the big screen. Is amazing. So, he's really, you know, that's another reason to get that movie. But
yeah, definitely. I mean, if you have the soundtrack of Tentacles, you should have the Valley of the Jumanji. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, if you have one, you should have the other.
I haven't seen that. I have the Big Country, but I haven't seen that Valley of the Jumanji available.
There is a documentary on the disc also called Return to the Valley with Harryhausen recounting the making of the film. So
I have this movie now. Now you've sold me, Adam.
I have to get it. I have to get it too. I'm going to get this shit. No question.
Well, I will tell you, it looks great. It's another one of the Warner Archives that they've done the 4K restoration on, and it's a brand new transfer. I'm talking like 2017 transfer, and it does look great. It's never looked this good. So, you know, if you're a fan, I'd say it's a must-have. as is this next Warner title, which is Demon Seed, Julie Christie.
Oh, yeah. Oh, fuck yeah. I mean, oh, my God. I mean.
Yeah, and that's, on paper, it sounds like a ridiculous premise. Because, you read the premise, it's like, a computer impregnates a woman. That's never going to work. And then you watch the film, and it's like, God, this is so compelling. This is so well done.
It is. I mean,
it's very good.
I hate Fritz Weaver as the husband or whatever, the scientist that creates the thing. When you start watching it, you're like kind of impatient with it and everything.
Right, yeah.
I watched it the other night, but when it finally gets going with Julie Christie being trapped by this thing, and who is it that does the voice of the robot? Is it somebody like
Robert Vaughn?
Robert Vaughn, right.
Robert Vaughn, yeah.
Robert Vaughn's greatest role, probably.
Yeah.
Proteus. Yeah. So, you gotta love it. You gotta love it, and also one of the few movies done by Donald Cammell, right? That who committed suicide quite early. He had a very difficult career. But I guess he's most famous for doing directing Performance, the Mick Jagger, Edward Fox movie, or is it James Fox?
I love that movie. I love that. That's a great movie. I told my mom about that a couple of weeks ago. That's an awesome movie.
It is. So,
and I'm sober saying that, but yeah, it's an awesome movie.
Yeah, he. I know we talked about his suicide, Donald Cammell. Suicide. I know there was something strange about it, but I can't remember it's been a while, because he committed suicide by shotgun, but he did it in such a way that it was, I forget what the story was, but it was very...
That it wasn't an instantaneous death or
right,
something.
Right, that's what it was, yeah, I can't remember.
It was something, it was maybe he had different thoughts at the pulling of the trigger or something, but...
Yeah,
this is a really good movie, though, guys. I mean, this is a really well-made movie. I love this movie.
It's part of that, the MGM, who originally released the movie, seemed like in the 70s to always be trying, after the success of 2001 for them, it always seemed like they were trying to do more sci-fi that they thought would appeal to people, and there's not only this, but there's Logan's Run and a few other sci-fi movies from the 70s that seem like they're a part of each other, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll move along to another title that I don't think is going to stand up in the same pantheon as Valley of Gwangi and Demon Seed, and that's the 1984 version of Red Dawn.
I know that people love it, but I'm not into it.
Oh, wait, compared to the new one, it's goddamn Citizen Kane. I mean, geez. Adam. Oh, no, Adam, this movie is like, I mean, there are people, I didn't even think twice about this movie until I guess in the late 90s I read that people in the militia movement swear by this movie.
Yeah.
Oh.
But it's not, when I go back and look at it in this sort of, I got to give Milius props. No, it's not a good movie. It's like, my God, Nicaragua's going to invade us? Really? Oh my God, are you serious? Really?
One of the funniest conversations I had was with the cinematographer of Cobra, Rick Waite, who was also the cinematographer of Red Dawn. And so he's telling me stories about Milius, and he loved Milius. He said, yes, he was a hard ass and all that kind of stuff, but he loved him, as opposed to George Cosmatos on Cobra, who he called George Comatose. But he was telling me about Milius, and he said they were all out there in the woods waiting to shoot in freezing cold night weather, chilled to the bone, while Milius was in his trailer banging some model.
I love John Milius. I love John Milius.
So every time I think of Red Dawn, I think of that story.
Mm-hmm.
I think of that trailer now. I think of that trailer.
Yeah.
The guy,
oh, my God.
being...
Now, that is great that you mentioned the trailer because I was just thinking of it. When I first saw that trailer back in 84 or whatever, early 84, I thought that's going to be fantastic. It really looked like a freaking great movie. Mm-hmm. And my main memory of Red Dawn is actually going to the screening and going, oh, I was so fooled by that trailer. That trailer was but I mean, despite this cast, Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey.
If you think about the cast, Dean, the cast is just incredible. But of what that they would go on, everyone from that movie would go on to do great things. No, the movie itself is, it's almost like, I love John Milius and everything, but it's almost like John Milius light. It's like you can tell, like, when he was writing this, he was like, oh, yeah, we got to do this, this, and this. And it's like when you show up, it's like for the test, it's like, we can only do this, this, and this.
Well, that's true. That's what it feels like.
It's John Milius's teen movies were so popular in the 80s. Red Dawn is his version of a teen movie. And you can understand why teenagers loved it because it's about them transitioning into adults by saving the world, by saving the country.
Sure.
I do need to say something though. I think the film, the beginning of the very beginning of the film with the history teacher lecturing like Genghis Khan and everything, you get this feeling like, this is everything that John Milius is like really history and all the stuff that he's really just known for. Watch Conan, The Wind and the Lion, have you? And it's like that opening is so cool. And then you get to the movie, it's like, yeah, you're right. It's just the teen save the world movie. But I gotta say,
it's the opening that's the best part of it, and that's exactly why. That's exactly why the opening really features prominently in the trailer. With all those, parachutes coming down and them looking out the windows to see them all. That was just stunning. But, given the cast, Steve Thomas Howell, Charlie Sheen, Leah Thompson, and then the, veterans like Ben Johnson and Harry Dean Stanton and Ron O'Neal is the villain.
That's true.
Powers Booth,
And Powers
Booth
as well.
is a great little performance by Powers Booth. I mean, he does save the middle of the movie. I won't lie to you.
Yeah, he's a bright spot in it. So, interesting movie.
By the way, Adam, here's a thought. You guys just brought up C. Thomas Howell. Has Shout Factory or Scream Factory, have they done like a definitive version of the original Hitcher? Because that seems right up their alley.
No, they haven't. There are a lot of requests that they've had. I know this because I heard the guy from Scream Factory talking about it. He said they've had, but what it is it's controlled by Warner Brothers because it was released by HBO Pictures or one of the HBO, when they had their theatrical arm or whatever. And so Warner Brothers has the rights to the Hitcher, and they're not letting anybody do anything with it. So that definitely needs.
That explains that.
Yeah, it's got to be up to them to do it. Yeah, but I was watching Red Dawn again. I hadn't seen it in like 30 years, and of course, another thing to note is it's the first PG-13 movie ever.
Yeah, that's right. That's another that's a great point.
Yeah, it was, and so there was that. But I'm watching it, and it is strange to watch Ron O'Neal, who we previously knew as Superfly, as a Russian in this film. And that's a little bit hard to take.
That doesn't make any sense at all. Why did they do that?
It doesn't. My son and I were watching it together, and he had seen the remake, had not seen the original. I said, and I explained to him who Ron O'Neal was, and he thought that was hysterical, which it is.
It doesn't make any sense. I was watching the movie back then, going, "Why is Ron O'Neal in this?"
Yeah, there's Superfly. He's a Russian in this one, though.
What?
But
a black Russian,
anyway.
I guess.
Right, it makes no sense. But anyway, so that's kind of a gonzo move right there. But anyway, so some other films that were released on, we're moving up to the 21st, actually, March the 21st, and here's a couple of titles that came out that day. Being There is a Criterion release. We mentioned that earlier, but it's really, if you're a fan of Being There, this is the definitive version to have, because it has there's a new documentary made exclusive for this one, this issue, that Criterion put together. There's, of course, outtakes that we haven't seen before. There's alternate ending. There's
alternate ending. Now, what is that?
It's a different ending where they skip. They just go to straight credits and they skip the outtakes. At the end.
That would be the preferred ending.
Right. Yeah.
Because I always think, even though I enjoy watching it, I always think, why did Hal Ashby make the decision to put these outtakes over the credits? I know. And I can't even recall now if that's how I first saw it, which, of course, Being There is a great movie. You got to watch it. And by the way, one of my favorite things about Being There is the fantastic job that Pablo Ferro did.
Oh, yeah.
The great credits designer who designed credits for, Dr. Strangelove and Stop Making Sense and so many other movies. He's the guy that's responsible for choosing all of the television pieces that we see in the movie, because television is very important in the movie, and
it is, and
those are very, very carefully selected pieces of television that are used in that film. And boy, what a great movie! But
sure is.
It's an amazing movie in that it's an amazing kind of amalgamation of a movie that is both gentle and biting at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's a hard kind of recipe to get right. Those tones.
Yeah.
And of course, you don't have to mention Peter Sellers. But I will mention Peter Sellers. I mean, it is. Outside of Strangelove, his greatest performance, and of course his last great performance, although not his last.
No.
But we won't mention the last one. Should we mention it? The finished plot of Dr. Fu Manchu. But
yeah.
Yeah,
you just had to get it out there.
Yeah, why not? But yes, Being There is essential, and so essential for our time.
True. Yeah, it's more prescient now than ever, and this is you're talking about Peter Sellers. It has appearances from 1980 by Peter Sellers on the Today Show and on the Don Lane Show, which were taped just like 3 months before he passed, which is really, really kind of weird just watching him there. And it's like, man, that guy was gone in just a couple of months after that. It just doesn't – it's hard to get your mind around that, But
he still ranks as like in my life as like one of those most shocking celebrity deaths, like that really like stopped me in my tracks. Like when I was a kid, I was just stopped. I mean, just like and I would rank Jim Henson, like that was another one.
Yeah, yeah, agreed.
But that was that I would love to see those. So that's another one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's worth having. It really is. And again, another 4K transfer, supervised by Caleb Deschanel. So this is not something that they just slapped onto a disc. They actually had Caleb Deschanel come in and supervise the entire 4K restoration. So so it's a pretty big deal if you're a fan of Being There. Another Criterion that got a release that has a 4K restoration, though I'm not sure it warranted it, but they gave it one anyway, is John Waters' Multiple Maniacs.
Which would have been better just doing like an amateur transfer, from 16 millimeter on.
It's really weird. It's very I don't even know how to articulate the experience of watching it because I put it up on my projector and I'm watching it and it's a pristine looking disc, not a speckle or anything. And I mean they retained enough grain in it to make it look film-like. So it does have a film-like quality. But the soundtrack is, when the songs come on, they're blasting out in 5.1 sound, and and then the dialogue is, it doesn't have any of that hiss that you would expect or any of the external noise, and it's cleaned up, but it still has all those, overuse of the zoom lens that was so prevalent in those early John Waters films.
Yeah.
It's still amateurishly made, but the amateurish look of the prints, or the battered look of the prints, I guess you'd say, is gone. So it's a weird experience watching it. So but it's
a long way away from. I mean, it's funny that John Waters really stole that stuff. And I'm talking about the soundtrack, because he would have the soundtrack of not only that movie but also on up to Pink Flamingos, which would be a few years later. Those were all had soundtracks that were peppered with things that would have cost him. Well, I mean, even back then would have. Probably you couldn't have bought them back then, but if the movie was made today, it would have cost him millions of dollars to get the rights to those movies, to those songs. So it's crazy how upside down it all is. But
it is, and he said that we'll never see a Blu-ray release or a video release of Mondo Trash Show just because he couldn't get the rights to the songs are so cost prohibitive, so it's not going to happen. But as far as the quality of Multiple Maniacs, it's just you can tell it's an early John Waters effort.
It's not my favorite.
No, it's not. It doesn't.
It's no female trouble.
No, it's no female trouble, and it's no polyester either. I'm a huge polyester fan, and it's not far away from being that polished. So,
and we won't even mention Hairspray.
Oh, I know, yeah, true. But anyway, so moving right along, Wonton Ton, the dog who saved Hollywood.
Oh, I do remember this. Holy shit! Okay.
Oh my God. This is the craziest.
Wait, so this is available for Blu-ray, DVD, or 8-track? I mean, what is it?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you, the plot of the film, it's not, a very good plot for a film or any of that. It's just kind of generic. But it is a blast to watch this Blu-ray, or it was for me anyway, to see all of these blink and you miss it cameos by so many people from Hollywood's golden age that were just, it's amazing. I think I looked it up, and there were like 65 appearances by people in this film. And, I mean, there's everybody from the Ritz brothers to Milton Berle to Phil Silvers to Joan Blondell.
Really, you need to go to the IMDb and if you're a movie fan who knows about who these people are or whatever, and you look at who's in this movie.
Amazing.
It is just how did they do it, and how did they do it with this product?
I know it is so impressive.
It is just astounding. It is. I mean, Bruce Dern, Madeline Kahn, Terry Garr. Okay, those are the 70s things. But then you got Virginia Mayo, Henny Youngman, Billy Barty. I mean, everybody. Ricardo Montalban, Andy Devine, Broderick Crawford, Dorothy Lamour, Gloria DeHaven, Johnny Weissmuller, George Jessel. It goes on and on and on. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, Rudy Valley also, you mentioned him earlier. Well, he's in it too, as is William Demarest, Uncle Charlie from My Three Sons. So,
of course.
And you can go on and, like you said,
Zsa Zsa Gabor, the late Zsa Zsa Gabor.
I know, yeah. But Stephen Fetchett's in there, and I was surprised they didn't use Stephen Fetchett's real name, but I guess it's because,
Yeah.
Anyway, but so it's something. I mean, like I said, plot-wise, for the quality of the actual film, it's nothing to write home about. But this is if you're a film fan and a real fan of Hollywood's golden age, this is something to really see. I'm telling you, it really is.
Yeah, I want to watch it. I want to watch it because I have to be honest. I've never seen a frame of it.
Yeah.
But I want to watch it. I have to see this.
Yeah, it's pretty. I had seen it when it came out. I saw it, I think, when Network TV ran it in probably around 77, 78, and that was the last time I had seen it. And so until I got the Olive Blu-ray, and then so I wasn't sure what to expect. But when I popped it in, it put a nice little smile on my face just from seeing all those people.
By the way, it's directed by Michael Winner, who's most famous for Death Wish.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So So anyway, so there's one that might be worth looking up and seeking out, and then RoboCop 2 and 3 came out from Shout Factory. I don't know what we want to say about those.
All I'll say about that is I think RoboCop 3 was filmed in Atlanta. I think that's the one that was filmed here in my town, and I even have a friend who was like had a speaking role in it as a cop. Mm-hmm. But that's all I'm going to say about it.
I'll just say two quick things about it. For those that haven't listened to our Nancy Allen interview during the De Palma tribute, she talks about RoboCop 2 and 3. And secondly, artificial police officers, they're working on that. I mean, that's technology that the robotic police officers, they're actually working on.
Mm.
Yeah.
Ready to put more people out of work.
They're out there for anybody who's a RoboCop completist, and so Lifeboat, the 1944 Alfred Hitchcock Kino, has done a 4K restoration on that. That's out there, as is The Invisible Ghost from 1941 with Bela Lugosi. So those have been issued, and we'll move on to the last day of the month, March 28th, which was I guess it was last Tuesday, and you have Michelangelo Antonioni's Blow Up from Criterion. It's been long out of print. Warner Brothers had issued it years ago, long out of print, but now back in print with a new transfer. Also,
now let me say something about the Blow Up thing.
Sure.
Let me just say something. Jeffrey Wells over at Hollywood Elsewhere, which is a site I love. He considers himself to be like he's kind of an ass, but he considers himself to be a expert on things dealing with the ratio aspects of movies. And he had a big complaint in that the aspect ratios. So he had a big complaint that movie actually doesn't conform to the original aspect ratio. It's like they made it into 1:8:5 when it's really 1:6:6. So it cuts off a lot of the headroom that Antonioni put on, the shots, and I thought that seems impossible with Criterion.
Yeah.
And he spent the past few months, kind of imploring Criterion to really look at what they're doing, and apparently Criterion, as great as Criterion is, no question about it. But apparently sometimes they do get some things wrong. And
nobody's perfect. I mean,
Is this something? Have you watched it? Did you get it?
No, that's one I didn't get. And it's odd with Criterion. I never know exactly what titles I'm going to get, or how many, or how few, and it's just I never know. So That was one of the ones they opted. I don't know if they were running short on review copies, but that's one I have not had time to look at. But although I probably will just pick one up when they have the flash sale, because it's a good movie and it's worth having. So
it's not only a good movie; it's one of the great movies.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah. I stand corrected. You're right.
It is one of the greats. The great.
Yeah, it is. So, but I will mention a few other things here. This one certainly is worth mentioning. Scorpion Releasing and they do limited releases, limited quantities. I think they run about 1,500 copies of their product. And they are issuing St. Jack, the Peter Bogdanovich film.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
Ben Gazzara. And this has a lot of extras. Like I said, only 1,500 of these. I want to stress that, because when they're gone, they are gone. And this is audio commentary with Peter Bogdanovich, on-camera interview with Peter Bogdanovich, brand new on-camera interview with Roger Corman. There's reversible cover art. And there's Memories of St. Jack, which includes interviews with cast and crew members and the Singapore locations of St. Jack. So if you're a fan of the Bogdanovich film St. Jack, this is of course, new transfer as well. So this is something that kind of slipped under the radar for me, and I'm going to have to get this one. So
I mean, that's a great movie too.
It is. It really is. Yeah.
If your connection to Bogdanovich is only through his 70s movie, through the earlier 70s movies that are very reverential towards American film of the past, you will see that this is his attempt, a successful attempt, to really connect with the present, the 70s. And it is fantastic, and one of the, maybe Ben Gazzara's greatest moment.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's good stuff.
It really
Very
is.
Good stuff. So there's that, and Scream Factory did What's the Matter with Helen? They issued that, one of those early '70s horror films with. In this case, it's Debbie Reynolds and Shelley Winters trying
it's not bad.
It's not bad. It's decent.
It's kind of a play on the whole elderly ladies horror thing that was started with whatever happened to Baby Jane. So there's something to be said for it. I remember seeing it as a kid and finding it memorable.
Mhm. Yeah, it's been a long time. I've seen it too, and I didn't think it was. It's not bad. It's decent. But I'll leave you guys with one more, and this one also issued last Tuesday, and that is Warner Archives' release of World Without End, which is billed as CinemaScope's first science fiction thriller. And starred Hugh Marlowe, Nelson Lee, Rod Taylor, and Christopher Dark.
Wow. That's one I don't know. So.
And directed by Ed Burns, not B-U-R-N-S, B-E-R-N-D-S.
Yeah, I didn't think it was that Ed Burns.
The guy who made all the Three Stooges shorts, basically.
Okay, all right. Not Ed Kooky Burns.
No, not that one either. No, not that one. Not to be
and not the Ed Burns that we all know from the indie world, but
and they're all spelled differently. But,
so many Ed Burns.
Yeah, it is.
What are we going to do with all these Ed Burns?
So